I finished Biomutant. Biomutant is an open world RPG. It's set on the Earth sometime after humans are dead and gone, so these mutant things now live here. Something that I like is the opening section. You get this really epic looking cinematic and you create your mutant thing. The character you make is based on abilities like agility, strength, intellect, and some other ones that I can't really remember. You can even customise your fur colours so your mutant can be as wacky as you want it to be. You pick a faction with different abilities. I picked Commando because you got a sick bandolier with it. You put in this jungle bit where these two fairy things pop up. These are light and dark, kind of like a devil and angel setup. You pick one at the start and throughout the story you make choices to affect your aura. This also can count towards abilities that you gain throughout your time in the game. I thought this was pretty neat. It means some dialogue choices have an actual effect on the story and gameplay, kind of. At least it was an attempt at implementing meaningful dialogue options unlike some other games. Cyberpunk. I chose the light aura because I saw if I got maximum light aura I'll get 10 gamer score from Xbox, and I'm not going to pass up 10 gamer score to be a dark aura edgelord. Fuck dark aura. All my homies hate dark aura. These choices appear nicely throughout the game and were kind of like the Red Dead 2 honor system. Yes, Red Dead reference has been achieved, let's fucking go. Then you jump into this arena and fight a big bloke. You're guided along by the narrator, who's pretty charming at this point. I didn't mind him at first because I thought he would just help us through the intro and whatnot. And then I thought he would shut up. Spoiler, he doesn't. I'll talk more about him later. But eventually you meet this one geezer who's in a wheelchair or something. You'll go talk to him and realise you have an Animal Crossing type interaction when he speaks. I was just starting to read the subtitles when a few seconds later, the narrator talks. I realised he basically translates everything the mutants say. It was at this point I was starting to contemplate why I'd pay the price of a AAA game for a little indie game with one voice actor. It's here where the Biomutant fanboys give it a 5-star rating in the Microsoft store and said, "Oh, but it was made by like a really small company and that." There are some brilliant games that were made by small teams and are so much better than Biomutant. Anyway, you get out of the bunker after fighting like a few waves of enemies. When it opened up and I saw the beautiful open world, I was pretty impressed. The end goal of the game is made clear. Defeat the 4 world eaters to stop them destroying the big ass tree, kind of like the tree from Avatar. Pretty simple, but it's not a horrible plot. But there's also a B plot where you join a tribe. So you meet this one tribe who you choose to make allies or enemies. I thought this would be a neat feature. I would get to see how my choice of tribe would affect the gameplay and how enemy tribes might interfere with my endeavours. The whole tribe thing didn't really work for us. It could have been a good concept if it had some better implementation or lasting impact on the game. I chose to make the first tribe I encountered my enemy, so he was like, "Alright, Soundmate, get the fuck out of me sick temple, I'll fucking break your kneecaps." Later I encountered another tribe that I joined because they had funny hats on and I wanted one. The guy explained to me that we needed to defeat the other tribes or get them to join us. So that is all you do for the entire B plot. You take on about 5 other tribes and fight your way through the forest until you get to the end and have a mini boss battle with the cult leader, and your chosen tribe takes over that fortress. Back to the main plot. To defeat each world eater, you meet up with a person who talks to you for a bit. They tell you that they have a mount for you. This can be a mech, a boat, a metal horse thing, and a submarine. But before you can go and defeat them, you need to get some kind of creature, like a butterfly, squirrel thing, some kind of fish thing. So then you defeat the 4 world eaters, which isn't too bad actually. It is quite challenging sometimes. I struggled on the second one, and funnily enough, the easiest one was the last one. At the end, you get some ship thing and just leave. That's literally it. You get in a ship at the end of the game and leave. There's also some stuff in the story about the mutant childhood, and it's really badly done and doesn't add anything to the game. It tells you how your mother was killed, but because the narrator wouldn't shut the fuck up, any ounce of emotion is ripped away from it and matched with the horribly janky cutscenes. It doesn't really work at all. They could have left it out and it would have made next to no difference. In conclusion, the story is playable, but not very good. First and foremost, the open world is beautiful. It's brimming with colour, vibrancy and diversity. The world feels handcrafted and it's really interesting. There's leftover cars, trains, tunnels, houses and waste. The game leaves heavily into
plastic bad,
which I didn't really vibe with, but the addition of broken cars and stuff was pretty neat. It was a good way to get loot and stuff. Like most games nowadays, The map is separated into different biomes, which is fine. It diversifies the world well, and it's a nice change of scenery. For how good the open world looks, THQ Nordic cannot make an open world. I know that contradicts the praise I've just given it, but hear me out. THQ have made a really pretty world, but they don't know how to make it feel real or alive. An open world should be filled with dynamic, unique gameplay, with interesting characters, activities and interactions. This game's interpretation of that is having random enemies popping out from within a deciduous bush and attacking you. This was tolerable at first, but it happens way too frequently. Sometimes I would finish one battle, then another 10 metres down the road another enemy would come and attack us. About 10 hours into the game I realised I didn't have to take all of these fights, I could literally run away and get on with the story. The map feels barren, it seems like there should be more villages and people wandering about. But when exploring the world you feel lonely, and not in like an artistic or deep way. It's just bad. In terms of the things to do within the map, they're like shrines to get psi points, which I'll talk about later. There's scrap to acquire to craft and modify weapons and clothing, which I'll also talk about later. I was persuaded to buy this game by a review that said there is, and I quote, a plethora of side content, end quote. Whilst not wrong, it isn't right either. Most of the side missions are like find these 5 phones or like 14 of these billboards. Really boring shit, no fleshed out missions with unique or interesting characters. One more thing to mention is the suit you need. In the map there are different environmental challenges that you need to adapt to. There are hazardous areas, hot areas, cold areas, and some other ones that I can't really remember. You can't go into these areas without the right equipment, so you have to get a resistant suit on, which means you can travel into that area without losing health. For each of these suits you need to go to a satellite, which the game calls a ping dish, and find the suit. Apparently a satellite can find a suit. These are probably the highest quality side missions that are available, but my guess is that once the game's completed, like no one will touch the game again, apart from maybe you do a new game plus if they're a fucking nerd. Gameplay is where Biomutant really suffers. The gameplay isn't bad, not at all. But my problem lies with the sheer amount of stuff they've tried to cram into this game. Firstly, the combat is pretty good. It's not groundbreaking or well polished, but it works well enough. You have a ranged weapon and a melee weapon, and this shit's really good. There are so many weapons, I was really impressed. Every weapon can be modified through crafting, which I'll talk more about later. The amount of weapons means combat is based on your preferences. For me, I'd found my weapons of choice halfway through the playthrough. I didn't find any better weapons, so I stuck with them for the rest of the game. I had no reason to switch. It meant I could win more fights, more effectively and quickly. As good as this might sound, it left the combat feeling stale. My combat would consist of shooting them with a gun for a while, then getting close, whacking them with my Mjolnir, and then ducking out of the way. There's also a parry system in the game, but it shouldn't have been put in at all, because the window of opportunity for parrying is so slim that it can barely ever be done. Another thing that really annoys me about the combat is the amount of enemies. When you're ambushed, 8 out of 10 times it's usually by a big group. The combat isn't very difficult, but when there's like 10 enemies all assaulting you at the same time, it does become really annoying. And I found myself dying loads because I would kill one enemy, and then I realised that while I was doing that, another one was hitting us from behind. To improve combat, there are Wung Fu abilities that can be upgraded. This improves close quarters and range combat. As well as that, there are upgrade points. Upgrade points improve one of the main characteristics like health, speed, luck, strength, so on and so forth. There are also biogenetics, psi powers and resistance. Biogenetics are gained using bio point things that grant Wung Fu abilities. Psi powers do the same things but are more magical and stranger. These abilities are affected by your light or dark aura too. Also, when in combat, if enough moves are used, it activates Super Wung Fu. This allows you to take loads of health off an enemy by performing a load of moves really quickly. You also have a little cricket robot thing that is upgraded by this fat weirdo who wanders about the map. When you speak to him, you have a little fight in your brain or something. He gives you a little pet and new ability like a health stim or a glider ability, so the developers can make the game seem like Breath of the Wild. And that's the problem. All of those abilities and features are crammed into this game, and only a few are actually good. They could have removed the Super Wung Fu thing that I used about 3 times in my playthrough. Most of this stuff could have been shoved into a skill tree instead of about 10 different convoluted systems that clash with one another and hurt what could have been a really special game. As promised, I will talk about the crafting. Crafting is nothing short of amazing. I was really impressed when I learned how good the crafting is. When looting the world, you pick up bits and pieces to add to your guns and melee weapons. This changes both the appearance and stats of the weapons. Some weapons have modules that can be added that inflict damage in the form of the elements in the open world, like fire and lightning. I didn't know whether they mentioned this, so I'll mention it now. The enemy variety is really fucking impressive. There's tons and tons of enemy types. It felt like I was running into new ones all the time, so well done THQ. There's so much wasted potential in this game. I've seen people complain about the lack of voice actors. That doesn't really bother us. What does bother us is having the narrator translate every fucking thing the NPCs say. I feel really sorry for David Shaw Parker. Poor Sob must have been in the recording booth for about 4 months straight. For the first week or two of my playthrough, I had to listen to him translate everything NPCs said. Luckily, the developers noticed how retarded this decision was and added an option to switch the narrator on or off, so he would only speak when it's absolutely necessary instead of all the time. Obviously I switched it off and actually enjoyed the rest of me playthrough much more because of it. No one really minds reading subtitles. We don't always need someone speaking. Look at Animal Crossing New Horizons. I mean, that game's brilliant and it doesn't have a single voice actor. The game could have been charming if they just had some random animal gibberish to accompany the subtitles. They kind of have this, but the game was made to constantly be narrated. They also could have leaned more into the animal traits for the mutants. To activate fast travel, your mutant has a piss on the post to scent or whatever. This is a really neat way to explain fast travelling. But the game could have had a lot more character had it used more animal characteristics like digging or something. Also, the game can run really shit sometimes. I got constant frame drops and really choppy animations. Oh, and one more gripe with the game, you can't swim. Your character cannot swim. You just drown. Anyway, that's really all I have to say about the game. I give it a 6 out of 10. I can't say it's god-awful, but it's really not that good. I'm gonna recommend that you don't buy it. If it comes to Game Pass, however, I would say give it a try if you're interested. There's some new stuff coming out soon. Watch Dogs Legion Bloodline is releasing any day now, so look forward to that on the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you nerds later. Ta-ra.